Thanks for coming. I really appreciate your time today. My name is Amanda Terry. I am co-founder and managing partner of ACTAI Ventures. We're an early stage venture firm, and I am just thrilled to have the opportunity that you have time to speak and that you are in our portfolio.
Well, it's an honor to be in your portfolio, and it's really nice to meet in person.
I know.
So much of our lives are on Zoom. I mean, we build a product for Zoom, but it's occasionally nice to get face to face. So
yeah, it's awesome. Well, I mean, like I was saying, kind of the goal of the videos is really just to share a little bit of your story as a founder and the background behind Fathom, so some of our investors can learn a little bit more about some of our really exciting and innovative companies. So, I mean, with that, why don't you give a little bit of your background in your own words?
Okay, yeah. I'm originally a programmer. I'm from North Carolina. I early in my career kind of shifted over to product design, and I think one of my moderate claims to fame is I worked in the first batch of Y Combinator with actually Justin Conham at Sheer on what is now the answer to a trivia question: what's the product before Twitch, sort of thing. And that was a very cool experience to really get embedded in what is now obviously like a pretty big startup ecosystem, but at the time was 10, 20-year-olds living out of the Cambridge office in Boston. Left Cambridge, Cambridge is cold, don't love it. Came to California in 2006, started another company called User Voice, which is a platform for product feedback. Grew that for about 10 years, eventually from like a startup-focused SaaS product to an enterprise-focused product. And that's kind of where the inspiration for Fathom came from. I was still working at User Voice and just doing a ton of user research calls, talking to a ton of customers, doing a ton of Zoom meetings, actually right before the pandemic, so kind of fortuitous. And was actually researching a different product and was like, you know what really sucks? Trying to take notes and talk to someone at the same time. And so, it's one of those things where it's like, if you do a meeting, you do 5 meetings a day, you might notice this problem. I was doing, in this case, like 15 meetings a day, doing those research calls, and you can be acutely aware of trying to talk to someone and write at the same time is hard. Trying to remember what you actually said, clean up those notes after the call, that's also a pain. Come back to those notes 2 weeks later, what do they actually mean? And I think I'm a pretty good note taker, and even I was like, this is terrible. So Fathom was kind of built as reaction to that problem, right? I think that everyone can kind of identify with it, which is like, I have these moments, these kind of like we're having now, these unique moments. It's hard to get these people back on the line. I don't want to miss something important.
I mean, it's been an invaluable tool for me. I mean, I've tried, obviously when we're diligencing your company, we tried all the AI note takers, and I just love the recap summaries. I love being able to share it too. Like if the other person doesn't have an AI note taker and we want to make sure, and I go back and I listen to a lot of things and I'm like, oh, is that what they said? And it just helps me immensely than having to go back and email and clarify anything I hear on a call. So to me, it's indispensable to use it. So I love the product.
Yeah, it's always great to work on a product that you yourself can use, right? And it's very you can tell how it tangibly changes your workday. I don't take any notes anymore.
Yeah.
I don't even and now when I meet with someone again, I just go look at the previous recording, scan the summary, or watch the last 2 minutes. It's like
yeah, it was funny. I was at an all-female VC conference last week in San Francisco, and you have this SVB notebook, and I was like, oh my god, I'm taking notes, and this is weird. Normally I'm just always on my computer on Zoom, and all my notes are kind of digital in Google Docs. So yeah, it's very old school. But
our goal with Fathom in some ways was we want to make actually having a video meeting in some ways more productive than an in-person one, right? There's certain things we can never replace from in-person meetings. So some of them are never going to go away, but I actually prefer to talk to someone on Google Meet or Zoom at this point because, if I meet you in person, I've got to go back to this archaic kind of note-taking methodology.
Yeah, and you might have to travel. And I mean, Zoom, the pandemic has just changed the way we all work, right?
Absolutely.
So you talked a little bit about what Fathom does and a little bit of what inspired you to start the company. Curious that when we were getting going, you were kind of talking about how you got into the Zoom apps marketplace, and there's kind of a fun story behind that. Can you share that?
Yeah, so I think really on we identified in the first couple months of the business, okay, we want to build this on Zoom. That's where the market is, and we're really struggling from a technical perspective. How do we hook into the Zoom interface? How do we hook into the meeting effectively, right? And get those recordings and also give you real-time cues about you're talking too much or stuff like this, right? And I remember, I think it was literally 3 weeks into this company being formed, we see this announcement from Zoom. It's we're announcing this new marketplace. You can build plugins in Zoom. And it was both one of those, like, it's one of those key moments as a founder where you're like, this is either really good for us or it's really bad for us, right?
Right.
and we got really excited, like, this is what we've been looking for. We've been beating our head against the wall.
Were you doing Microsoft Teams and Google Meetups?
No, we were just doing Zoom at the time, but we were looking at, like, we're gonna have to build our own Zoom client. Like, we were like, we're gonna completely build our own Zoom client, and also discoverability. And it's also like, oh wait, you can just plug into Zoom. That's exactly what we're looking for. And so that's exciting, but then you also realize, this thing's coming out imminently, it seems like, and there's 30 companies listed, and they're all big names, and you're not one of them. And so this was a thing where I was like, okay, like
how do I get on that list?
We've got to get in this program. Yeah, we've got to get in this program.
Yeah.
And I went about, like, working my network and went around trying to get everyone connected to Zoom to invest in Fathom. That was just kind of like, and so we got, like, Jim Scheinman at Maven Ventures who came up with the name Zoom, Bill Ty, who you obviously know, right? And so, like, worked through and eventually got our way into just actually even getting connected, and I think even just cold emailing the guy who ran the app marketplace program. It was like, here's what we need.
Yeah.
Like, here's what we're doing. We think it's super cool. We think it's a perfect fit. And amazingly enough, they were like, yeah, we'd love to have you. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that worked, right? So that was like 2 months of, like, again, like, this is either going to sink us or, like, this is going to swim. And we were there from day one of the App Store app marketplace launch about 8 months later. And we're, I think, still about the number one app in the App Store, right? And it's like app stores don't open up every day, right? And when they do, it's like you want to be there on day one. And so, we hustled our butt off to get there.
That's amazing.
Honestly, the engineering team even more than me, right? Like, you'd imagine there's a whole bunch of other hurdles in there. But I look back on it now very fondly. In the time, it was very much like this is a real fork in the road here.
Oh my gosh, well for our fund, we're always looking we believe that digitization makes industries and processes more scalable and replicable. So you guys fit right in that. And then also kind of solving big world challenges along with UN SDGs in terms of, like, workplace productivity. I can't imagine, like, another app that is pushing that forward outside of Zoom, of course, that is really, like, changing the landscape there. Tell me, like, when did you know? Did you have product market fit kind of before you got into the Zoom App Store, or was that Zoom App Marketplace, or? No,
before we launched in the App Store, we had, like, I think, like, 60 regular users. Like,
really? So it just
we intentionally decided just to launch. We decided, like, we're going to basically launch exclusively on this marketplace.
Okay.
And we did have kind of a beta period where we had a beta product and we were working on it. And I remember there were a couple of moments where I was like, I think we're onto something. Obviously one is I used initial beta version and I had just high conviction. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of bugs and rough edges here, but when it works, it's game changing. And then it was a challenge of, like, how do you make this work reliably, which is actually the hardest part about this product in a lot of ways. We kind of knew that, like, transcription was going to get really cheap. We knew that AI eventually was going to show up and make transcripts actually useful. But we also knew the hardest part was just, like, making this thing work reliably, record reliably in real time. So early on, I remember we kept onboarding, like, cohorts of, like, 100, 150 people and just working the network. Hey, you want to try this free app? And I'd watch, 100% of them fall out of the funnel, fall out of the app within 2 weeks. And eventually we got to a point where we saw, wait, people stopped falling out of the app. Now they're actually sticking with it.
What was that? Like, was it a feature, or?
It was just a tipping point of, like, we eventually got to the point where, like, it's mainly it was the bugs that kept killing us at the beginning. And eventually we got to the point where it's like, okay, it's stable. And that's what we learned. It's like, for a product like this, stability is the number one feature. And so I think, but we went to this launch day and we launched to tens of thousands of users on day one, and we only had 60 active users to that point. So that was a little hairy. But I think the fact that we knew we had this folks, and those folks felt the way I felt, which is they're like, I don't want to live without this. I'm like, okay. Like, we felt confident that if we get people into the product, now we've got a product that will retain them.
So there are, obviously AI is everywhere, and there are a lot of note takers that seem to be popping up. Like, how are you guys staying competitive vis-a-vis, other products that are in the market?
One of our big advantages is actually infrastructure. So, we kind of identified early on that the cost of transcription is going to go to zero. And it's in 2020, where at that point it was like $3 an hour actually. So saying this thing's going to zero was pretty bold. We actually now pay about, like, I think $0.015 an hour for that. So not exactly zero, but pretty close. So we said, we're going to build this business for where it's going. There were people doing something like this, but it's usually for specific markets like sales or whatnot, and they're usually really expensive. And so our whole pitch was, we believe that if we can get scale and this thing, there's like these generational changes, like transcription becoming commoditized, we can be the first people to give this product away for free. And that, you can only do that if we own the infrastructure, because we have to outsource a bunch of infrastructure, we can't get the cost low enough. And that's still true to this day, right? We, number one app in the marketplace, we are, there's other people that have free versions, but we have a completely free product with no usage limits and things like that. And we found that's really, really important for things like virality.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's,
Hard to test things when you have to pay right away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think.
But I remember when we were talking, you were just starting to turn on the monetization and kind of play with that. And like, how has that like kind of blossomed, right? See the freemium model.
Yeah, we should be closing in on $2 million by the end of this year. We started monetization about a little over a year ago.
Okay.
And we had a unique model there where we're like, we're not going to charge the users, we're going to charge the manager.
Yeah.
So the whole point is, Fathom, give away for free. We land at your company with salespeople, with PMs, customer success, with engineers even. And then once we land in there, we, after we get 5, 10, 15 people using it for free, there's kind of this natural regression to, hey, let's roll this out for our entire team.
Amazing.
And once we do that, you want a whole different set of features. You want a centralized repository, you want centralized search, you want alerts, you want all these sorts of things. So we said, great, again, our infrastructure model allows us to give this away for free, get in the door, and then have this very organic bottom-up sale. We think we have over 2,000, I think now actually 2,500 companies where we have 3 or more active users.
Wow. Wow.
And that's with zero marketing spend, basically. It's just virality and being in the number one app in the Zoom marketplace.
I mean, I feel like we could do like a whole session on like growth hacking user, like get viral, like, of how to make a viral app. But I know we have like limited time with you today. Let me just ask you, just in kind of closing, is there anything that ACTAI Ventures investors can help you with? That any message or anything we can do besides use the app? Tell people about the app.
Yeah, use the app, but also email me afterwards and tell me anything at all, even the smallest thing you don't like about it. Right.
Okay.
It's also, as someone who likes doing product design and also engineering, it's an interesting app because people always use it in a hurry. No one ever joins a Zoom meeting calmly, right? Everyone's
Right. It's like, I gotta get next one.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
And so it's a real, I think it's like the Mount Olympus of like UX challenges, where it's like every little thing.
It just needs to work.
It just needs to work.
Yeah.
And like I was like, oh, are you okay if we like auto record? Like it really helps me. And I've actually never had anyone say no. And in fact, to me, it's almost like a sign. If someone says no, I'm like, why wouldn't you be okay like with me listening to this again?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It is an interesting era where like I think some people are afraid that people won't want them to be recorded, and in certain maybe like you're talking to lawyers,
I always ask.
You should always ask.
Always ask.
But it's surprising no one really cares, and if you can also give them access to recording too, you're actually helping them. They love it.
Yes.
But yeah, in terms of what ACTAI LPs can do for us, again. Use the product, let me know what you think. And then if you think there's anyone we should be partnering with, I mean, one of our big initiatives is partnerships, right?
Okay.
Like, Fathom is, I always say, like a way station. There's all sorts of places the content in your meetings needs to get to, right? Our biggest feature is we're shipping all of these meeting notes into your CRM. Now we're starting to automatically pull out the action items, push into your task management system. And so we're always looking for opportunities for other marketplaces or other places where we could basically find another acquisition channel for Fathom. We are quickly climbing the ranks. We have, I think, almost 5,000 people using our HubSpot integration.
Oh, amazing.
We just launched Chrome extension. So,
Nice.
yeah, product feedback is gold, and honestly, any connections to any kind of potential partnerships would be great.
Great. Well, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. Again, you're actually our first founder that we've interviewed for this series. So,
always happy to
yes,
be the guinea pig.
you get like kudos for that. Thank you for being the guinea pig. And yeah, really excited to support you in your journey.
Well, we're happy to have you guys on board.